Greetings, students. So this video is to talk about basically one of the most important parts of the PBAT project, and that is the Evidence Organizer. So in the Google Classroom, under the mini PBAT project theme, you'll see some items there already. But the one we're talking about today is assignment PBAT Evidence Organizer. So I'm just going to go here to view assignment, right? And I'm going to go ahead and open it up. Okay. So as directions state here, use this organizer to record the evidence that you find to support the claims in your 2 meal paragraphs. You will write down the names of the sources and explain how the evidence supports your claim. And for some of you will be using evidence that is included in the project description. And what I mean by that is this right here. Okay, so just for reference, we'll be using the first one, the ICE and knowing your rights. Okay, and every option you have at the very bottom has a place labeled how to get started, and it already has links to reliable sources that you can use to get started. So going back to the evidence organizer. So basically what you're doing is you're looking for the evidence that will be used in your meal paragraphs. But you should also see the evidence organizer as just a way to start thinking about what your argument is, what your claims will be for each meal paragraph, and also to start thinking about your analysis that you will use for your meal paragraphs. So like I said, some of you will be using just some of these sources. Maybe some of you would like to go and get like the maximum points and use sources that you've searched for yourself. And for that, that's what this link here is for. You can click on this and it'll give you the list of reliable websites. And the ones marked in yellow are websites that are that I would say are the preferred ones for this project. So the top ones are for news sites and the lower ones are for historical or science websites. So to start the evidence organizer, first of all, it asks for some general information about the PBAT, and it says PBAT option and question. So like I mentioned, we are going to be using option 1 as a sample. So you can type in, for example, option 1, and then include the question for option 1. So each of these, every option you have has a question attached to it. And it's for option 1, it's right here in the project question to answer. And the question is, should ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, be abolished or canceled as a federal agency? So I'll just go ahead and copy that and paste it there. And that part is done. It's really just a way for you to have that question there because that question is what's basically focusing all of the evidence that you're looking for. So no matter what evidence you're trying to use, where you're finding it, the evidence should be in support of answering this question. Now, the next section is the claim. What is your answer to this question? And what are at least 2 reasons you believe this answer to be correct? And as you see, there is included an example. And so we're just going to be responding to this example as part of the evidence organizer. So it says here, answer the question, ICE should definitely be abolished or canceled. And that's very important. Whatever your answer to the question is, as shown right there, like this is going to be the focus of your project, and it'll of course be the focus for the evidence that you look for. And it's not enough to just say, oh, like I say yes to this question, or I say no to this question. It's not enough. you have to provide reasons. So, and the reason that I'm asking you to do 2 reasons is because each of those reasons will become the focus of your 2 meal paragraphs. These are mini PBAT projects, so you're only doing 2 meal paragraphs. But let's say, for example, that I was asking you to do much bigger projects where you have to do like, 3 supporting meal paragraphs or 4 or even 5 and up. Well, each of those meal paragraphs would basically represent a different reason to respond to the question that's being presented. But this is a mini PBAT project, so you're only required to provide 2 meal paragraphs. So that means that you will only be required to have 2 reasons. So for this example, reason number 1, ICE has incarcerated children and kept them in cages. So that's reason number 1 for why, in this example, you believe that ICE should definitely be abolished or canceled. And reason number 2 is that ICE regularly terrorizes immigrant communities. So that would be the other reason and the other focus for the meal paragraphs. So if we go further down, you see that, there's a section here that's for meal paragraph number 1. And this is where basically you organize the evidence and the names of the sources and the details for the evidence that you will use to support meal paragraph number 1. And if we go farther down, you'll see that there's a different section for meal paragraph number 2. So for meal paragraph number 1, it asks, what is one of the reasons that supports your answer to the PBAT question? All right. And basically all this is saying is for you to repeat the answer that you're giving to the question, to the project question, and then provide one of the reasons that you've stated earlier. So in this case, if you look at this example, it says clearly, it gives a clear answer to the question, and it also gives a clear reason why you have that opinion. So reading it right here, it says the ICE agency must be abolished or canceled. So right there, clearly you're stating a position, you're answering the question. So the ICE agency must be abolished or canceled because of their practice of incarcerating children and keeping them in cages. So right there, you have a clear answer to the question, and you also have a very clear reason why you think that that answer is the correct one, but the reason to support that question, that response. So that's basically the focus of what this meal paragraph is about. So once you provide, basically a claim, which is, the response and the reason, now you can find evidence. And as you can see, like, as part of the project requirements, if we go back to the homepage and look at the project requirements, it states right here that the evidence requirements, it says that you will need to find 2 to 4 different pieces of evidence. What that means is basically that you will need to find at least 1 evidence for each meal paragraph. Now, for those of you who really want to do like a good job on this PBAT project, I'm really saying that you should be looking for 2 different pieces of evidence for both of these paragraphs. So you would do number 1 here, number 2 here, and then same thing for the second meal paragraph. So, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you like one example of what you should be doing, and then it should be enough for you to understand and how to continue forward. So like I said already, the claim that we're using is this example. The ICE agency must be abolished or canceled because of their practice of incarcerating children and keeping them in cages. So now we have to find evidence that supports this. Okay. So it might be, and just, there's different ways you can find this information. You can maybe search one of these articles that's listed, but I guess I want to show you also like how to find information from reliable sources. So here is a list of reliable sources here, and this is uh, a more recent topic. It's not talking about something that happened in the past. It's a more recent topic. So we want to use probably a reliable news site. So like I mentioned before, I think the New York Times is pretty reliable. So we'll use that as an example. So I'll just go here in Google. And so I want to use the New York Times. So that's what I'll type in first, New York Times. And then I'll put in what the topic I'm looking for. And as the statement says, that the reason that I'm saying that the ICE agency must be abolished is because of their practice of incarcerating children and keeping them in cages. So you want to remember that when you search for things, you want to keep the sentences pretty short. So only put keywords. So I will use ICE incarcerating children, and maybe I can even add cages. Okay. All right, so you see here that there are several articles that are coming up that are connected to the incarceration of children. So, I think if you are looking for this topic, you want to look for articles that are more recent. That's just good practice. And I say that because, say, for example, like this article down here, "The Shame of America's Family Detention Camps," it's still relevant, but you'll see here that it's from 2015. So you want to try to find something that's more recent. Um, and so let's go. I think the first one that just says thousands of migrant children detained in resumption of. So let's take a look at this title. And you might encounter a situation where, you will need to log in. So I believe the school has an account with this. So I'm just going to log in using the Frida Kahlo account. I think it should let me in, and there you go. So right here it says thousands of migrant children detained in resumption of Trump era policies. And so basically, your next task is to read through these articles that you find and find information that supports your idea, your reason. So, and really, what you're looking for is providing things like details, statistics, specific examples of that support your idea. So in the example here, and that's basically what you're trying to find here. And I guess what I'll do is I'll go through and find a specific example that we may be able to use here. So, of course, you'll have to read on your own to find that information. Okay, so right here, there's a section where it actually talks a little bit about the conditions of like how the children who are incarcerated, because of their status. It talks a little bit about the conditions they're kept in. So, for example, I might copy this, and this would become like the detail that I want to focus on. So you would put this under details. And remember that you have two options. So it says here that you can copy the information from the source, or you can summarize if the information is more than 2 sentences. So I think this one is a pretty good size where I can just copy. So remember that if you are just copy and pasting information, you want to put quotes. So there's one quote. I'm posting it like that. And I think it's always good practice also to make sure that the fonts are all the same for what you're using, because it just makes it easier later on. And that's what I'm doing right now. So there you go. Looks pretty much the same as the other fonts that are being used. Okay, so now we found information and details that we want to use. Okay, so once you actually read through an article and you find information that you want to use that you believe connects to this claim, then you need to record that source. You need to tell me where you got this information. So right here, it asks for the title of the article, the name of the author, and the name of the website. So let's look at these. So the title of the article will almost always be found near the top, and it's right here in the bigger letters. So it says thousands of migrant children detained in resumption of Trump era policies. So that's what you'll type there. And if you notice, when you write the title of an article, usually you basically capitalize like almost every word. Now you need the name of the author, and that's also found near the top. So usually when you read articles, they're pretty much set up like in very similar ways. You'll see like the um, the title of the article, then like kind of like a little summary of like what it's about, or like sort of something interesting or important about it, and then it'll have a picture. And when you see the picture, usually like right beneath the picture is where you see the author. So this is by Miriam Jordan. So that's what I'll put here. Miriam Jordan. Okay. And the name of the website. So the name of the website is basically the name of the publishing company. So this is usually like the banner right there. So it's the New York Times. So that's what you put down as the name of the website. All right. And so now all you have to do is explain like how the details connect or support your claim. So, here we chose, the claim is that, the ICE agency should be abolished or canceled because of their practice of incarcerating children and keeping them in cages, right? And so now you want to, so this one talks more about like the kinds of shelters that they're actually living in. So that's what you want to focus on. And maybe it doesn't exactly talk about cages, but it does talk about how children are incarcerated and not being kept in the best conditions. So you may, that might be something like that. You can say like something like the way that children are kept in structures that are not very good for people and are only for temporary use, create an unsafe situation for young people. Okay, and you can also include like this. This is not a good situation, even if the children are seen as undocumented, undocumented. So again, this is one of the big reasons why the ICE agency should not exist anymore. Okay, so you just explain, like, based on what you found, you explain why it connects to your main point, which is that the ICE agency should be abolished or canceled. But this is pretty much what you do. This is what you would be doing, and if you wanted to stop here and just provide one evidence for this meal paragraph, well, that's your choice. But I think what makes the your paragraphs stronger is by having more than one evidence. Okay, so I would suggest you might want to keep reading this article to see if you find more interesting information, or maybe you would like to look at the other results you got from the search. There's an article here that talks about like why the United States must release children from family detention centers. I think this other one was in the news pretty frequently about the parents of 545 children separated at the border cannot be reunited. I think that's a very good point that supports the idea of like canceling the ICE. So it's really it's really up to you. Like if you put one evidence for each paragraph or two evidences for the paragraphs. But remember that part of this project is for you to learn how to do more independent research. So I really hope that you take up the challenge, because this is a useful skill that you will be using later on in your classes in 11th, 12th grade. And for those of you who are thinking about going to college or university, you will be using these research skills later on as well. And like I've said before, like if you do provide more if you provide more evidence and also demonstrate that it's not the evidence you find is not the evidence that I've provided for you in the PBAT options, you will get more points. So try your best. Try to push yourself to to find reliable evidence that that you find, and good luck on completing this evidence organizer.